shalom, ose shalom, Shekinah shalom, Nazi shalom, Yahweh shalom, shalom it shalom, Shekinah shalom, ose shalom, Nazi shalom, Yahweh shalom.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm super excited to have you all here for the introduction of the launch of Red Dress, my novel that's been 7 years in the writing. I first of all want to thank Marika Boss and Tula Eckhart for the beautiful piece of music, Oze Shalom, Shekinah Shalom, the creator of peace, the peace that passeth all understanding. Let us just send that peace out to the world right now. So yeah, welcome. I'm thrilled to be here and to be sharing this evening with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't tell you how much it means to me. Before we dive in, if you have any questions, we're on Zoom and there's a chat box. And if you go to the bottom where your controls are, there's a little, like a balloon that says chat. If you've got any questions or anything you want to ask, type them in the chat box and Paul will be keeping an eye on those and I'll try and have a look later on as well. So questions, comments, whatever you'd like to put in that chat box, and I'll try and answer them if we have time later. We're going to take all of your names and put them in a hat and put them in a drawer, and somebody's going to receive a copy of, there it is, Red Dress. If you're in South Africa, you'll get it signed. If you're anywhere else, you'll have to wait for me to visit you and then I will gladly sign it. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and I tell you, it takes a Hamlet to birth a book. Many people have made this book possible, and I want to thank, I mean, there's too many to thank actually, but I really want to thank Cindy Holmes from 8 O'Clock Club Moyo Talks, who suggested that I approach John Hunt Publishing, who is my publisher. I want to thank Christina Kellingley, who was an amazing mentor. Without her, the book would not be possible. I want to thank Gavin Davies, who's my publicist at the publisher. He has been incredible. If you've seen all the podcasts that I've been doing, I've got one this evening at 3 in the morning. I want to thank my husband, Paul Scott, for looking after me and making sure that I eat and sleep, and he's also monitoring everything online. So thank you, Paul. Love you to bits. And I want to thank Deborah Marie Isis and Awakening Horizons is her company. I want to thank Sadhana Tate and Kirsty McAndrew, who have been on this journey with me. I'm sorry, I feel so emotional. They've been on this journey with me for a very long time. So thank you all. I'm going to now hand over to, I used to call her my angel in Cape Town, because when I first arrived here, I didn't know anybody. And Emma, I just met her just before moving. We had a mutual friend. And she used to look after me and make sure I had a blanket when it got cold and a map book. And she's English and she's moved back now to England. She's living in Oxfordshire and she's going to interview me this evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're listening and wherever you are, may I introduce the wonderful Emma Hamel.
Thanks, Bridget. It is amazing to be here. And hi, everybody. I can't believe we've got so many people online and so many people I know too, which is fantastic. As Bridget shared, I met Bridget 10 years ago now, I think 8 years ago. I'd done the transition to South Africa and I did a hand holding when she got over there. I have come back and I think we've even got the SA weather today in England because it's rather miserable. So sad, it might even be better in Cape Town. So really pleased to be here, very honoured to be doing this with you tonight and incredibly excited for you. And I'm going to be interviewing Bridget and asking her some questions. Hopefully they're ones that you'll all be interested in as well. I have had the pleasure of reading the book. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I loved it, and fictional book with many, many lessons to learn. And I think the first question actually that came up for me was, how much of this book, Bridget, is based on your own life story? I know everybody's going to want to know.
Let me just unmute myself. Brilliant corker of a first question, Emma. Thank you. Look, it is a fiction. I will say that, but it also is based on the events of my life. For example, the main character, Katy, has her soul contract read. That soul contract is actually my soul contract. Many of the things that she does, I have done. She is a psychotherapist on Harley Street, which I was. She lived in West London. She's got 2 teenage children. So there's a lot about her life that is mine. But there's also a lot about her that isn't me. She's just started on a spiritual journey, whereas I've been on one for about 30 years. So she's very green and very new, and she steps into it with trepidation, and she's wavering on the fence, and is she going mad or not, and is she going to step into this or not? And that's not like me at all. So there's aspects of her that are not like me, but the events of her life, the fact she's a therapist, and what actually unfolds in that life is based on my story. So it's a fiction, but it's also loosely autobiographical.
Okay, thank you. It was interesting for me when I was reading it because I did touch on some of that with you, and I know some of your history, especially when I first met you. And I remember coming to see you, and I just said, you can throw out all of your wardrobe of your Harley Street clothing because you're not going to need any of that in Cape Town. So yes, it was really nice actually to relate to some of that. What prompted you to write this book?
Okay, so some people I think have always had a book in them, always wanted to write a book, and I have to tell you that was not me. I wasn't one of those people. And a long time ago when I was living in London, which I've actually been in Cape Town for 9 years now, and I used to have a friend, I don't know if she's on with us, Zoe her name was, and she used to say to me, Bridget, you're going to write a book, and when you write your book, she'd talk about it matter of fact, and I would just go, oh yeah, Zoe, and I wouldn't really take much notice. Poor Zoe, sorry, my love, you were so right. And anyway, then I went and did a training to work with my intuition, which kind of brought me to Cape Town. And I just moved to Cape Town, didn't really know anybody apart from Emma and a couple of other people. And I had a Skype call with another friend, and who's very, very intuitive, and they said, you're going to write a book. And I thought, oh no, here we go again. So again, I ignored it. Now, bear in mind, I'd lived here for 2 weeks. The only person I really knew was Emma, and Ryan Pinnock and Bronwyn Evans, who I kind of vaguely knew as well, and obviously know them better now, or know Bronwyn and very much better now. So didn't really know anybody, and somebody knocked on my door in the middle of Comachie, which is a beach surfers place on the peninsula. So I thought, who's this? And I looked out the window to check it wasn't somebody dodgy, and the person looked really nice. So I opened the door and he said, I'm your neighbour from across the road. My wife's birthday is today, and we're having a braai. So for anybody who is not South African, a braai is a barbecue. We're having a braai in the garden. Would you like to come? I said, yeah, I'd love to come. So I arrived with my bottle of wine, and I find out that the wife is a writer, an author, and she's just finished a book, and nearly everybody there is either a writer, a publisher, or an author, or teaches creative writing at Cape Town University. So it was as if the universe was going, no, you're going to write this book. Well, resistance came in, and it took me a long time to actually face writing it. I think it was Kirsty, who I just saw was online with us, who eventually said, look, you've got to start this book. I wanted to kind of write something nice and easy, like, I don't know, 7 spiritual laws of enlightenment, or, you know, how to create the life you love, or something that was going to be non-fiction and factual, because I knew that I could write something like that from my days in PR. I think Paul Miller's online with us as well, so he'll remember that. But I wasn't really I didn't feel I was cut out to write a novel, but that was what I was intuitively guided to do. So then I thought, okay, if I'm going to write a novel, what is it going to be? What is it going to do? Why am I going to write this book? And I wanted to get across some of the wisdom and knowledge and understanding that I have gained over the last 30 odd years as a therapist, as a healer, on a spiritual journey, and working with intuition and creating. And I wanted to be able to share that with the world, but I wanted to do it in a really fun, entertaining way, because there's loads of fabulous non-fiction books out there, but not everybody's got the time and inclination to read them. Now, I very rarely read a novel except when I'm on holiday, and it's sort of like a real treat to read a novel. So I thought, what if you could have the real treat of reading a novel, something light-hearted, that you can accessible, that you can get into the story, and there's a little bit of a raunchy scene in there, and there's very much life, you know, and it's very, very relatable. What if you could do that and get pearls of wisdom in there and share things in a really fun way? So that was my reason for writing this novel, to get it out into the world, to open people's minds.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really do resonate with that. In fact, I got my copy about a month ago, and it sat in my office because I knew I was going on holiday, which we came back a week ago, and we went away for 2 weeks, and it was just for that reason. I wanted a novel that I can go and read while I was away, which was unusual for me because I don't normally do them, and yeah, and it was absolutely perfect. So brilliant book for that. Thank you. I think you've achieved that one.
Thank you.
Bridget, who do you have in mind for reading your book?
I think the market is essentially women. There have been men that have read the book and enjoyed it, Paul being one of them, and my friend Dave Beezer as well, who's very much a bloke. He's bloke, you know, he's not he's a gardener, and he's sort of out there very in his masculine, and he really enjoyed the book. But it is focused more on women. It's obviously about a woman who's burning out, really. She's lost herself and who she is. She's juggling work-life balance, children, marriage is not good, and then she's trying to juggle a career. And I think that's the situation that many women find themselves in. So really it's for those women who feel that they may be suffocated by juggling too much in their life or burning out. And how do they get out of that? What are the answers? And the journey that Katy takes, because she's a therapist, she has some therapy. So we see therapy in there. In fact, there's a character later in the book that's a love and sex addict. And we see the 12-step program and the Priory. We see therapy. And we also see a spiritual journey, an alternative journey playing out, because that's how she chooses to find herself, really. So you can look at it as a kooky story about a woman finding herself, or a kooky lot of friends going on a bit of a fun journey. You can look at it as a story of somebody finding self and the modern malaise of people, women particularly, having to be it all and do it all, which it actually creates burnout. It sort of feeds into the Heroine's Journey by Maureen Murdoch, where we take the road of trials and step into the masculine, only to burn out and feel empty, and then seek for the feminine again and reconnect with that. So it's kind of looking at that, who you were, who you are, who you want to be. There's also, we can look at the relationship dynamics. There's quite toxic relationship dynamics in the novel, and you can look at that from a psychology perspective. And then of course there's the spiritual journey, which you can take, because everything in Red Dress is authentic. So even the way she meditates, you can follow that and learn to meditate. I think one of the first things she does is she goes to have her soul contract read, and that's a real thing. If you want to go and do it, you can do it. So if there's something in the novel Red Dress that you think, actually that sounds really fun, I'd like to try that, it's there. You go Google it, you can find it, you can go and do that. And she does yoga and she meditates and all sorts of stuff like that. So
I know I did one of those things to you, didn't I? I wrote to you and said, where can I find, a person that does this? It was actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you some feedback. I've done a couple of reviews, and this is what I read. This is what I wrote. And I said, what a read, a very well written fictional book with many life lessons interwoven. I found I related to so much of Katy's story, many aha moments and some interesting new perspectives. This book is for anyone who is intrigued about their life and how to make positive changes. It's witty, honest, and relatable. I totally loved it. So for me, it's for everybody. This can be for somebody that's beginning their journey. It can be there's a lot of us that have been doing this work for a while, but we've all got a history. We've all got a life story. And I think we can relate to so much of it, and also relate to the thought process that you had on your journey and what you did on that time, and many new ways of looking at things. So that was my perspective, and I'm sure many people have different perspectives. But that's what I got from it, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you, Emma. That's awesome.
People are going to. Well, Bridget is going to now bless us with a reading. She's going to do a short passage from one of the chapters. And I'm going to hand over to you, darling, and then let's give it a go, and people can start to see what I'm talking about and what you're talking about.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, my love. Thank you, everybody. So I'm going to read the first scene that I'm going to read. There's actually a second one we'll do later on. Is so that the central character, Katy, is started on this kind of spiritual journey with some trepidation, and she's on her way to a course called SRT, Spiritual Response Therapy, which again is a real thing. And she's going down to Sussex, which is in southeast England, and she's going from London. So, Eckhart, she's been listening to Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart was talking about being intensely present. She couldn't concentrate. Perhaps it was his tone and the fact he kept repeating himself. How many times has he said, "in this moment now"? Katy's mind drifted to the exquisiteness of the English countryside. The morning light drew her attention from the invariable pitch of Mr. Tolle and the sporadic traffic that trundled along the M25. A soft bank of late autumn mist spread itself across the South Downs, where treetops punctuated the low-lying fog, appearing to float trunkless above it. Swallows, their silhouettes darting across the palest blue, swooped and circled before landing on a wire. It arrested her. She was frozen in time at the breathtaking beauty. A car in front, sounding its horn, the driver shooting her the customary 2 fingers. "Fuckwit," she said out loud, swerving across 2 lanes to a chorus of hooting as she realised she was about to sail past her exit. Eckhart had stopped, and she ejected the CD, replacing it with Handel's Messiah. She hadn't got a clue what he'd been talking about anyway. A crescendo of orchestral sound filled the car. She listened with grim determination. It would raise her vibration. Ready for the SRT course, she thought, trying to appreciate what she could only think of as bombastic music. She should have brought Bach's cello suites. They were more her style. On the way home, she'd listen to her music, cool music, the stuff her inner boho loved. As the road ahead cleared, Katy slipped the convertible into 6th gear. Above the strains of the Hallelujah chorus, her mind raced. She thought about her secret club, her clients, her family, and how much she loved driving the open road, especially unencumbered by children or anyone else for that matter, and especially fast. She'd have made a good Formula 1 driver, maybe a female Stig, or a star in a reasonably priced car, her name up there on the board with Gordon Ramsay's. Blimey, over 100, she noted on the speedometer. She'd better slow down. Winding through the villages just outside Brighton, her mind was smoothly ticking over. The secret society was like a shoal of bright, spiritual people tumbling along the same crystal waters. They gathered at seminars, read similar books, discussed metaphysics and mentors, and saw the importance of connection with nature and sitting in stillness and silence. The waterway was peppered with crucial coordinates, which they swam towards, mysteriously guided by intuitive forces, each following their unique path through the rapids and its deep pools and warm shallows. Not everyone would read the same books or attend the same lectures, but they'd all be led according to their needs. They might swim alone, then regroup, only to split and join later, alone, yet in the same shimmering stream, alone, yet part of the shoal, the current carrying them towards the light, taking them home. It was all about learning, growing and discovering. We're never truly alone, she thought, and with that came the realization that everything was connected. She remembered something that Tik-Nyak-Hung had said. See this blank piece of paper? Can you see the cloud in it? No? If you look very carefully, you can see. Without the cloud, there would be no rain. Without the rain, there would be no tree. Without the tree, this piece of paper would not exist. We do nothing alone. We're interdependent, she thought. But we need to be self-accountable. Otherwise, we'd become the spanner in the works. The car stopped abruptly at a T-junction. Katy had lost track of where she was and had no idea which way to turn. Left. She heard the thought as if it had been planted there, clear and certain. Following the road through, she picked up a sign for a familiar-sounding village, and glancing at her handwritten directions, she sped off. It was dawning on her, as she drove, that fellowship, sharing and cooperation were more important than grabbing what you could. We need to work together, she thought. But we can't do that until everyone's ready, till we're all consciously aware. You had to be awakened to the bigger picture, to the invisible threads that connected each pearl. Had to realise the cloud was right there in the paper. Everybody had to play their part, but many were still stuck in the old paradigm. Pass go, collect £200, buy a better box for yourself. Win, lose, compare and compete. Katy slowed down, looking for the Jolly Farmer sign that Jane had said was about 100 metres from the entrance to her cottage. Having parked the car, she picked her way along a small brick path leading up to a chocolate box thatch with its half-timbered upper floor and red brick base. The windows were tiny, the chimney stack tall, and the flower beds awash with roses, lilac and lavender. There was a kitchen garden to the side, well stocked with herbs and vegetables and poles on which runner beans must have grown. She took a deep breath before lifting the forged iron door knocker. A slim woman in an expensive trouser suit, sleek cropped hair and a horsey scarf draped loosely over her shoulders, opened the small cottage door. Jane Joyheart was nothing like Katy had imagined. "You must be Katy. Come through to the kitchen and make yourself a drink," she said, in BBC perfect enunciation. "We're just waiting for a few more before we start." There was a vast choice of herbal teas, a jar of instant coffee, and a box of regular tea bags. Katy made herself a ginger and lemon before taking a short bread finger from a plate of biscuits. She noticed a tray containing various types of milk, goat's, rice, skimmed and organic full cream. One or two of the group were already chatting as the others arrived in ones and twos. "How was the journey?" said a small Indian woman. "The one here, I mean," she smiled, "not Brandon Bay's." Katy joined in the pun. "The spiritual journey or the one from London this morning?" As they gathered in the large kitchen, conversations were struck up. It was as if they'd known each other for years. We're all part of the same shoal, thought Katy. She felt connected to them in a way she didn't with the mums at school and her old book circle friends. "I think we're all here," said Jane. "Let's move into the sitting room." The group were about to learn the art of dowsing with a pendulum. It was a necessary requirement before moving on to the complex charts, numbers and detailed sheets that formed the core of spiritual response therapy, or SRT. Katy diligently took it all in. Do it with the intention of succeeding beyond expectation, but don't let perfect be the enemy of excellent. That was her motto and her hallmark. It won her the results she craved, but at a price. By tea break, she could feel the stiffness in her shoulders. Lunch was a vegetarian buffet. I'm not sure I belong here, thought Katy, oscillating between a sense of homecoming and a feeling of hovering on the margins. It seemed almost mandatory in spiritual circles to stop eating animals. Katy wasn't sure if she wanted to be part of this club. The last thing she wanted was to be one of those kooky types that stuck out like a mutt at Crufts. But if she was going to be aware of the cloud in the paper, she'd better start thinking about what she was eating. Her mouth started watering at the thought of succulent steaks and oven-roasted lamb with rosemary and pan-fried sea bass with capers. Shanti had told her that meat was bad for the colon. It was too dense energetically, she'd said, and you needed to lighten up to become enlightened. Besides, you took on the energetic stress of the animal when you ate it. Katy hadn't taken it too seriously at the time, but now she was having second thoughts. Having helped herself to the buffet, she munched her way through raw broccoli with chilli and sesame, shredded beetroot with cashew salad, fried tofu in tamari, and a generous helping of salad. She felt bloated and full, yet curiously hungry. "We've decided to go completely vegan," said Jane. "It's the only way to go if you care about the planet." "And if you're serious about your work," said a tall, skinny man with a beard and ponytail. "Work?" thought Katy. "Surely this stuff's just a hobby, something to keep us from going insane." "When I was a lawyer in the city," said Jane, "we used to dine out a lot on meat and a quantity of red." She helped herself to a huge pile of watercress. "We've cut out the meat, but still quaff the vino." "What made you quit town?" asked the Indian lady. "Came to our senses. We realised there was more to life. This cottage, the work I'm doing now, the garden, it's a million miles away from our old London life, and I love it. We've never once regretted leaving." "We?" "My husband, Barney, and I, and the dogs, of course." "Were you always Joyheart?" asked Katy. "My maiden name was Hamilton, changed to Joyheart when I married Barney." Katy could feel the beginnings of a migraine. The stiffness in her shoulders had crept up the right side of her neck to the base of her head. She took 2 paracetamols. I'm going to hand back over to Emma. You need to unmute yourself. I think I've muted you because there was some feedback.
Am I back? Okay, sorry. Yes, I'm busy chatting to myself there. That was lovely. Thank you. That was really. It was lovely to have read it, and now really lovely to have heard you speaking it as well. So, and that's actually going to bring me on to my next question, Bridget, which you're probably going to guess what this one is going to be. I don't know if people around the world, or certainly South Africa, are into Audible, which we are very much into in the UK. Is this something you're going to be bringing out on Audible, please, young lady? It's out on Kindle and in paperback. So
a lot of people have asked that question, and I would like to bring it out on Audible, but to do that professionally actually takes quite a lot of time and money, and it's not something that's in the domain of the publisher. However, 1 or 2 people have said that I should read it myself. I don't know whether I'm professional enough to do that or not, but I'm sure there will be an Audible. Whether I narrate it or whether it's somebody else is another matter, but there will be one, but it'll just take a little bit of time to get out there.
Okay, great. I'm keen to know where the title Red Dress came from, because having read the book, there could have been a number of titles for it. So what specifically made you pick Red Dress?
I had a couple of other working titles, and I think the very first working title, and some of you on the thing tonight heard me read from that very first manuscript, and it was called Alchemy by Numbers, because she follows a set of numbers. And then I got a little trial run at the 8 o'clock club, which is the little kind of club in Cape Town, and a lot of people came thinking it was going to be all about numerology, so it kind of sent out the wrong signal. And then it was going to be called Golden, because she finds her gold. But there was a lot of other books called Golden, and I didn't know what to call it. And one day when I was writing it, it just came to, I'll tell you why it's called Red Dress as well, but it came to me, Red Dress, and I mentioned it to a group of friends, just a small group of friends. We were studying together, and one lady went, "Oh, Red Dress, I'd buy it if it was Red Dress." And I just thought, okay, it's going to be Red Dress. And the reason it's Red Dress and not the Red Dress is that you'll hear in a minute. I'm going to read, or when Emma's finished asking me questions, I'm going to read a second passage, and you'll see from that she's working with these Aura-Soma bottles. And part of this, it's not, doesn't happen to everyone, don't worry, but as she works with the Aura-Soma bottles, she becomes obsessed with the colours of that bottle and wearing those colours. So there's a whole sequence of different colours that she's wearing. And then finally, she's free of these bottles and she can wear anything she likes. And she comes out of the shower and she opens the wardrobe and she's scanning the entire thing. And she hears a voice that goes, "Red Dress." But I'm going to leave it to you to read to find out what happens with the red dress. It's a crucial turning point in the novel.
Fantastic. I understand that there are going to be more books based on Katy's life. Is that true?
Yes, if I ever get the time to write rather than publicity machine, there is. There's actually it's a trilogy, and the sequel is already about a third of the way through being written, and then there'll be a third one. So because it's loosely following my life, and it's also loosely following the structure which we use to create. So the first thing, if you're going to create something different in your life, is you have to become aware of the life that you've got. You have to become aware of what's not working in your life. So the first book is about her becoming aware that her life is not working, and then choosing this different path to create something different. Now, when you're creating, you have to let go of old structures that created the thing that wasn't right for you in the first place, and then create new structures. So the second book is actually about all of those structures breaking down, and it all seems to be falling away, and she rises phoenix-like from the ashes, and I don't think that's giving away too much from that. And then the third book, I'm going to get her coming to Cape Town, and I've already got an idea for how we're going to write that book, and that's going to be a lot of fun as well. But I'm not going to give any of that away yet because it's just in gestation phase. Okay. There's also, by the way, the publishers also asked me if I would write a non-fiction called The Bone Circle, which would be about the bone circle training that Emma, I know you've done, and a few of you on here have done as well. But it would just be sort of like a primer for that training. So when that ever gets done is another matter. I kind of need 3 of me.
Do you want, now you've just touched on the bone circle, do you just want to give a brief overview of that for those people that don't know about it?
Sure, yeah. Well, there's quite a lot of people here who've experienced working intuitively and with creativity, whether it's the bone circle or another training. But the bone circle actually brings together 3 areas of my expertise. So one of those areas is therapy and healing, which is looking at the past and unhooking the past and healing the past. It also brings, and it's the intersection of these 3 areas, and it also brings together the area of sacred wisdom teachings, which is really the present. So we could go into meditation and yoga, or working with sacred chants, all sorts of eating well, drinking water, all of those sorts of things, health, lifestyle, but also being fully present and stillness, which is really important. So that's another facet. And then the third facet is about intuition and creating. So the therapy is about the past, the metaphysics is about the present, and intuition and creating is about the future. It's put together in 5 different stages, and I'm in the process of completely upgrading it, so it's going to be even more amazing, because as you know, Emma, it was taught in person before, and I want to put it online. So this is another project that I've got for the future, to record all of that and make it an online training that's accessible to people. But basically, it's a unique, transformative and life-changing program that brings in all of these facets, which is really about you living your soul purpose. What did your soul come here to do? What is your purpose? What are you here to do? What are your talents and skills? What are your passions? What do you love doing? And tapping into that to fulfill it. So you're basically creating purposefully, on purpose, according to soul purpose. So that's the bone circle. Coming soon to a internet, a laptop near you.
That's brilliant. Of course, this year in particular, we've all been diving into learning online and reading online and workshops online and everything else. So that'd be absolutely amazing. I'm going to bring in a question from Amanda Lemon saying, what is your biggest fear about releasing your book?
Great question, Amanda. There's been many, and they've all been threshold guardians, obviously. And you get over the early ones, like I'm not good enough, and I'm not written properly, and I'm going to be taken out, and everybody's going to say it's rubbish, and all of those things. You kind of get over those quite quickly. But today, I've been really, really nervous about this launch, and it's something to do with feeds right back into what we were saying about the bone circle. That part of my purpose and mission is to get this work into the world and make it accessible to people. And when you read Red Dress, you'll find out what Katy's soul contract is, and you'll know that that's my soul contract. And then, in order to fulfill that, I really need this book to go out into the world, not because I want to be famous, not because I want to make money, but I really need this teaching to go out into the world, to wake people up to a new way of being. And so my biggest fear is that 20 of my friends buy it and that's it, and I've wasted 7 years of my life doing it. So please, all of you, please share with your network, your social network, your friends. Please do support me by buying it. And also, more importantly, actually, than anything, the whole world nowadays is run by algorithms and the dreaded Amazon. Now, I understand some people don't want to buy on Amazon, and you don't have to. The book is available everywhere, online and in paperback and in shops and on Kindle and ebook. You can buy it anywhere. But if you could help me by reviewing on Amazon, that would be fabulous. The publisher has told me that we need to get 50 reviews, 50 reviews on Amazon. It doesn't matter if they're not all great reviews, by the way. We have to get 50 reviews for it to hit another level of algorithm. So really, Amanda, my fear is it doesn't go past the tipping point and it just stays this small thing.
Well, we have got 67 people online, Bridget. 3 of those have already read it, I think, and probably a number of others. So hopefully we can get to 50.
That would be fabulous. I mean, that would be such a dream. Bless you all. Thank you.
All right, so Amanda, great question. Thank you for that, and let's help Bridget to get there. So where can we buy the book? You have spoken about Amazon. Where can you buy it? Obviously, we are all over the world. We've got, obviously in the UK, we've got Amazon in the UK, Waterstones. I think it's available in the US. So can you let us in on a bit more on that one?
Yeah, it's actually literally available pretty much everywhere that books are sold. So you can buy it from Amazon, any of the Amazons, Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, the European Amazons. You can buy it from Waterstones. You can buy it from Barnes and Noble. You can buy it from Kobo. You can buy it online. But the best place actually to go, or you can buy it from your local bookshop, your local independent bookshop. Just go in. You may have to order it, but it won't take very long to arrive. So you can buy it anywhere. If you've got a favourite bookshop that you want to support, which I always think is a fabulous thing to support a small local business, please do go in and order it from them. If you want it online, there's lots of places. You can go as well to the publisher, because they've got a link to all the many places online that will sell it. So the publisher's website is johnhuntpublishing.com. So www.johnhuntpublishing.com. You just search for Bridget Finklaire Red Dress. It will take you to that page, and you will see that there's links to buy it anywhere. And also, if you go to my website, there's also links on there. The website's bridgetfinklaire.com. So you can also go there. And I will be posting news and things on the website. So when the Bone Circle is up and running, for example, it will be on the website. And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, please do. You do need to check your spam folder, because it may go into spam. I will not write it very often, because quite frankly, I don't have time to write very often. So you're only going to get them when something's happening, like a book launch or Bone Circle or something that's really inspired me to write.
Fantastic. And actually, my next question actually was, where can people find out more about you? So I'm assuming your website,
bridgetfinklaire.com. I'm also on all the usual social media. Facebook, I've got a Facebook authors page, Bridget Finklaire, author and spiritual teacher. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on YouTube. Now, I need to get the YouTube one up to date. It's languished a little bit, but there are a few interviews on there. There are bits and pieces on there. There's actually 2 YouTube ones. There's one for Bridget Finklaire, author, and one for the Bone Circle by Bridget Finklaire, but it really doesn't matter because I'm going to probably end up posting on both of those things. So this, we've got now, the live recording we have now, I will edit it, so it's really just Emma and I, and so that you guys, if you've asked questions or something, don't come into that, and then that will be posted on YouTube. Yeah, so that's how you can find me.
Okay, so
an unusual name, so you can always find me. There's no Finklaires except our family.
there's a few questions coming in from Cape Town or South Africa. Are they available? Is it available in paperback in Cape Town yet? Which bookshops over there? And is there a South African distributor?
Okay, so unfortunately, the South African distributor would have been Hay House. And as we know, Emma, because of Angela O'Neill, Hay House is disbanded in South Africa, so there's no distributor here. So normally, the books that you buy in South Africa are either published in South Africa by South African authors, or they're bestsellers. So you've got to wait for Red Dress to be a bestseller, then it'll come here. Having said that, you can buy it online, obviously, and if you look on Loot and you search Bridget Finklaire Red Dress on Loot, you can buy it as a paperback. I don't know how long it will take for them to post it to you. I'm in negotiation with the publisher to see if they can get it put on Take-A-Lot, and whether the online version, the ebook, can go on Take-A-Lot as well as the paperback. I have shipped a very small number from England, and it is a small number, so I have a couple to give away. There's a few that I have to give that have already been earmarked, and there's probably about 10 left over, and I will be contacting people close to me to see if they want to buy one of those. But it's hugely expensive to import them. It costs a lot of money. I will only charge you the cover price, which is why I want them to go to people who've really been around me and supported me and helped me. But you can get it, Loot.
Okay, and one lady here, Nina Craythorne, has actually said there are only 6 paperback copies left on Amazon.
Yes, Nina, thank you. 6 copies left. Go buy it before it's sold out. Fantastic.
That's so cool. That's really good. So pleased. And Paul is busy writing all these links down for everybody as well. So we've got John Hunt Publishing there, Loot. That's great. Thank you, Paul. Okay. Bridget is now going to read another passage for us, and that's I know it's going to be really enlightening, and you're going to love this one. I remember this chapter very well, this passage very well.
Okie dokes. So, Emma, I'm just going to put you on mute while I read it because there's a little bit of feedback. Just remember to unmute yourself at the end. Okay, so in this chapter, Katy's been working with these Aura Soma bottles, and she works through them for about a month or so, and it's her clothes that actually are sort of indicating whether when she needs to change the bottle. Okay, and she's going to go. I'm going to just dive in with it. Katy emerged from the shower, her hair tightly coiled in a towel, turban style, her thick gown tied at the waist. Flinging open the wardrobe, she realised that just as suddenly as it had come to her, it had left. The urge to wear entirely green was gone. Keeping a few choice pieces, olive linen trousers and a forest boiled wool jacket, she bundled the rest into a dustbin liner, earmarking it for charity. A craving for lime green remained, so the yoga top was salvaged, along with a cheap bright green hoodie that she'd bought in the sale. She was hankering after magenta now, a colour she'd never worn. Foraging through her bedside cabinet, she found an old pair of sunglasses. Lime green frames with magenta inside. She'd bought them ages ago for a fancy dress. It must be the Aura Soma, she thought. It's telling me to change bottles. The charity shop took her sack of green with appreciation, and while she was handing it over, something caught her eye. A string of magenta plastic beads with matching earrings. She picked them up before spotting a plum pink and lime green check scarf, an acid green designer jacket, which, because of the colour, was a total bargain, and a mauve and cerise floral skirt with bright spring foliage. She bought the lot. Trying it on at home with a new Sugar Plum Fairy lipstick she'd purchased from the chemist down the road, she looked in the mirror and winced. The lipstick clashed with her skin tone, sucking the colour from her face and producing a cold, pinched effect. She eyed herself up and down. "I look like I need a dialysis machine," she muttered. The dark glasses in the middle of winter were conspicuous, but gave her something to hide behind. Her bold but finely honed sartorial elegance had sunk without trace. She was obliged to wear her charity shop outfit, however embarrassing and however much she protested. At least it was Wednesday, and the only person who'd spot her, apart from Richard and the kids, was Shanty, who she'd be seeing later. But before that, she'd better buy something a bit more tasteful in lime green and magenta, if such an outfit existed, or she'd look ridiculous at work tomorrow. "My God, what are you wearing?" said Shanty, opening the front door, her mouth gaping, her eyes darting up and down. "It's the bloody Orosoma." "Huh?" "The Orosoma. Looks like my wardrobe's telling me to switch bottles." "You'd better come inside." "My clothes are telling me what to do." Shanty let out a peal of laughter. "What's the bottle after this?" "Baby pink and pale blue," said Katy, turning down the corners of her mouth. "I'm guessing you're on spring green and pinkish red now?" "Lime green and magenta. What does it mean, Shanty? This Orosoma stuff and all these colours?" Lavinia said something about chakras, vibrations and frequency, but I was too embarrassed to ask her about it. "Can I use your loo?" "Sure. Want a chai latte and some chocolate-covered rice cakes?" Shanty disappeared into the little kitchen at the back of her cottage, and after some clattering and the sound of a blender, emerged with a tray just as Katy returned. "Chakra. It's pronounced with a ch, like chocolate, not a sh, like Shanty. It's Sanskrit," she said, setting down the tray. "Now, Sanskrit is an interesting and complex language because one word can mean different things depending on context. Did you know that it's one of the 5 sacred languages? It's Indo-European, and the Hindu holy Vedas and scriptures are written in it. That's why we chant in Sanskrit. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. The last bit was sung in her sweet voice. It means, may all beings be happy and free, and may my thoughts, words and actions contribute to that happiness and that freedom. Very nice, but what does chakra mean? I'm getting to it, she said, sipping carefully at the hot milky drink, which she'd seasoned with cardamom pods and a sprinkling of cinnamon and black pepper. It means wheel, circle, turning or vortex. They're basically energy centres. But why magenta? I thought they were the colours of the rainbow, you know, red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo and violet. And green. What? Green. You missed out green. You're thinking of the 7 major chakras, but there's more. Above your head, in the palms of your hands, on the soles of your feet. The ones you're talking about are the ones you see in diagrams of people meditating. Yes, red at the bottom, then one above the other with violet at the top of the head. Correct. They're usually just in front of the spine. What about magenta? It's a higher chakra, above your head, she said, holding her palm a few inches above her to indicate. And lime? Chartreuse or pale olive. True yellow-green would be even higher. What do they do? Magenta is for the soul and a higher level of universal love. And I'm not sure about the lime. It could be an aspect of the heart chakra, about letting go of bitterness and sourness. What's the significance then? You're being guided by a higher love, being prepared to connect with it. Why? Probably to open your heart and mind to universal love so you can link to something much bigger, said Shanti, pausing for thought. And the green is helping you let go of the past, probably so you can learn to love yourself. I'm not sure I like the sound of that, said Katy, nibbling on a chocolate rice cake. How does it work? The chakras are like energy portals. They turn and open like the iris of a camera, but more like a vortex. Think of them as turning, unfolding like a flower, spiraling like water eddies, but upwards and outwards. Actually, they're a bit like antennae, sort of transmitters and receivers. Shanti was scribbling a diagram on a piece of paper to illustrate her point. The goal is to purify and activate them so you're functioning properly and in balance with each other. They get blocked, you see, like a drain or a kitchen sink. You need to unblock them. So the aurosoma is a kind of spiritual dino rod. Shanti let out a girlish laugh. Yes, it's a big cosmic sink plunger that's freeing you up energetically. The visual humour had Katy giggling too. But seriously, continued Shanti, you've got to work through them to expand your consciousness and become more aware, more connected. But why? The more aware you are, the more connected you become and the more expanded your consciousness. But why do I need to expand my consciousness? Enlightenment. That's the goal. Self-realization. It's the very first baby step on the long path to ascension. That's rubbish, Shanti. Nobody ascends. You start with self-awareness, said Shanti, ignoring the last comment. She was used to dealing with skeptics. The chakras are called the 7 seals in the Bible. Katy shot her a glance. Was she serious? The book of Revelation, said her friend. John the Divine's Apocalypse. You should read it. The 7 seals have to be broken before we can graduate to the next level. I thought it was all hell and damnation. And anyway, isn't the Bible just a load of nonsense? No! It's a great metaphysical love letter from the divine. You just have to know how to interpret it, said Shanti, sitting back in her chair. Because I'm half Indian, I came at it with a different angle. It wasn't rammed down my throat when I was growing up. It was just another story, like the Mahabharata. Anyhow, the book of Revelation is speaking of the end times, which start off with destruction. But when you get further into it, it talks about the 1,000 years of peace and the new heavens and the new earth. It's an amazing read. You've got to take a look. Katy finished her chai latte and reached for a second rice cake. Shanti could talk gibberish at times. You were telling me about chakras, she reminded her. Each of the chakras is associated with different things. A musical note, a seed syllable like Om, a symbol, a colour, a mandala, a system of the body, an emotion. Shanti was counting them off on her fingers. Each has a vibration and a frequency. That's why the aurosoma lady talked about vibration and the vibration of your name. So each of these bottles I'm working with is affecting a whole load of stuff that's connected with the chakras. Shanti nodded. And the green was all about love, the heart, the circulatory system, and a whole lot more. Katy picked up the tray, taking the empty mugs and plate to the kitchen while Shanti followed. Tell me about frequency and vibration and how that's connected to chakras. Okay, but let me get settled. We're in for a long afternoon. Do you mind? No, I love talking about this stuff. A lot of people don't want to know. They're asleep to it all, like muggles, said Shanti, lighting a fire in the small sitting room grate before sinking into a large floral armchair. I've got blankets and hot cocoa for later if the temperature drops, she said, gathering her thoughts. Where shall I begin? Katy watched the fire roaring. A wisp of incense curled up beneath a brass dancing Shiva on the mantel. Either side of the statue were 2 white candles which flickered in the draught. You already know about the basic chakras, said Shanti. Red at the base, violet at the top, each one vibrating at a different frequency. She stood up to illustrate. The red is for survival and being rooted to Mother Earth. Orange is the sacral, for sexuality, reproduction and creativity. Yellow is the solar plexus for confidence and fear and other lower emotions. She placed her hand over each area as she spoke. Then it's green for the heart, which is love and compassion. Turquoise blue for the throat and communication. Indigo for the third eye, which is mental capacity, intuition and psychic ability. And violet at the top of the head for the crown chakra, the gateway to higher consciousness. Katy nodded as she leaned forward, eager to hear more. Each of those colours has a spectrum or a wavelength. Red has the shortest wavelength and the lowest frequency, and violet has the shortest wavelength and the highest frequency. Hang on, that's where I get lost. What's the difference between wavelength and frequency, and between frequency and vibration? Shanti sighed, puffed up the cushion behind her, put her clasped hands behind her head and looked up. Have you heard of Nikola Tesla? Rings a bell. Who is she? Another healer? I'm going to hand back to Emma, so you need to unmute yourself, Em.
Thank you for that. You going through the Aura Surma stuff I just found absolutely superb. Lots of humour in there as well, and I kind of think making light of it, even though it's obviously quite a serious topic. So really, really do appreciate that. We are coming through to the end now. There is a question that one lady asked, and I don't know where it's gone now because I've gone right the way to the bottom, and it was about, did you use pen and paper to write this, or did you use a PC? When I found that quite fascinating. And I'll find out who it was and then tell you who it was at the end.
I can think it's Liz. Was it Liz? Okay, so I don't think can you see behind me? This is it's actually a healing couch, and it's full of bits of paper. It's a writer's desk. So there's a lot of handwritten notes, and you wake up in the middle of the night and think of something, or wake up in the morning and think of something, or you're just about to go and have a shower and you think of something. So I had notepads, here they are. This is only 3 of them. There's actually about 6 of them. And they're dotted all over the house, and I wrote down a lot. Also, if I went for a walk, I would put it on a voice note on my phone and then write it down. And then I'd have ideas and scribble. But actually writing the book, the novel itself, I did it on my laptop. I can type really fast, and I can touch type without looking. So actually for me, it's quicker to type it onto the computer, and then that allows the stream of thought to come through. And it also makes it a lot easier to edit, because you can cut and paste and move things and spell check and all of that sort of stuff. So it's all on computer. Good question, thank you.
And that was from Maria Jo Scott.
Oh, Maria Jo Scott. Okay.
Okay, so we are.
It's my sister-in-law, Mara. It's actually Mara. Thank you, Mara.
Got to Yeah, but something to do with Paul. So there we are.
Yeah,
That's a really good question, actually. We are
great
coming
question.
towards the end now. So do you want to mention very briefly again about the book draw, how that's going to happen,
Yes,
and
yes.
then I'll say goodbye.
Yes, absolutely. So I've got a few books downstairs, and obviously I've got a couple of books in England as well, and the author's got copies sorry, the publisher has copies. So what we're going to do, Paul has taken like a screenshot of everybody who's on here, and I think Lena, bless her, is watching this on Facebook Live, and she's kind of taking a note of who's watching on Facebook Live. And we're going to put all of those names in a box or in a hat, and we're going to pick one out, and whoever we pick out is going to be the winner. As I said, I don't know whether it can be a signed copy, because if you're getting it in England or in America, I can't sign that copy. If you're getting it, if you're somebody in South Africa, you can probably get a signed copy. But I'll announce it on Facebook as well. And when I send the next newsletter out, because I will send a newsletter out, because there are a huge number of podcasts and interviews that I'm doing, not just about Red Dress, but about consciousness, about metaphysics, about the bone circle, about all kinds of wonderful things. So I will send out a newsletter, and the winner will probably be in there as well, but I will post it on Facebook.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I believe we are due to close up. So just want to say thank you everybody for being here, and goodbye from me. It's been great. Thank you so much, and been really inspiring. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you, Emma, for being a fabulous host. Wasn't she wonderful? I absolutely knew she was going to be perfect. Thank you, Angel. What I'm going to do before you all go, if you'd like to, you can hang around, and I'm just going to play another little video that I've created for you. Enjoy. Thank you all so much. Read the book, buy the book, review it on Amazon, tell all your friends, and thank you so, so much, each and every one of you. I value each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and enjoy Red Dress, and enjoy.
It must be jelly, 'cause you know jam don't shake. It must be jelly, 'cause you know jam don't shake. Yes, yes, she's got what it takes. Yes, yes, she's got what it takes. She's got what it takes. She's got what it takes. It must yes, she's got what it takes.
Ain't no slang like that, East Coast slang.
It must be jelly, 'cause you know jam don't shake. It must be jelly, 'cause you know jam don't shake. Yes, yes, she's got what it takes. Let me tell you, gate, what I overheard. Don't tell a soul, don't breathe a word. 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 Don't tell a soul, don't breathe a word.